Welcome to all. I am Mar Introini, Global Chair of Global Networking All Ladies Lead G100. And here we are with Franca Colozzo from Italy, Anja Caron from Germany, and Jitendra Svarasta from India, talking about sustainable practices, one of our series on sustainability. In this time, we are going to address it through the Sustainable Development Goals, from a very special focus that is peace, cities, education, and gender equality. And we are going to go through all these questions that we are all making ourselves. What happened when this golden framework that United Nations hold and deliver, but at the same time, there is not enough action? What happened when this global framework, global commitment from governments, but not action, especially from citizens? What we can do? And here we are. Franca Colozzo is an ambassador of peace. She's from Italy. She's founder of Long-Term Economy, the blog. And she will be talking about peace. Anja Caron, she's manager from CEO of TIA International and global chair from G100 on circular economy. Jitendra Svarasta is from India. He's a business consultant and man of excellence from the Women Economic Forum. So he will have a lot to say on gender equality as he contributes actively to what means equality in businesses. Please introduce yourself one by one, and then we go. The floor will be yours, Franca, shortly. Please, Jitendra. Wait, yes, Jitendra is. No, unmute, please. Unmute, Jitendra, please. Unmute yourself, please. Yes. Okay, Franca, okay. Go ahead, please.
Hi, my name is Franca Colozzo. I am an Italian architect, writer, novelist, poet, educationist, etc. I am ambassador of peace, CEO of the International Harmony Council, Interfaith, and the Global Goodwill Ambassador, Directory of Italy. After my short presentation, I introduce the topic of this meeting. My speech today, as an official blogger of a long-term economy and as a humanitarian and peace ambassador, starts with SDG 16, one of the most important amongst the social SDGs. It's about peace, justice, and strong institutions. In fact, peace is not a foregone conclusion. Peace is struggling. It's a daily conquest, faith and hope. After the storm raised by the COVID-19 pandemic, we are observing a general impoverishment and the risk that this crisis will fuel new conflicts around the world, while stymieing prospects for resolving ongoing ones. The increasing poverty, the inconvenience in transport, in the school sector, where distance education had taken the place of that in the presence, with the well-known consequences of a progressive illiteracy, especially for families without technology, not to mention the discomfort, mental and social increase. As well, all these reasons are a strong deterrent for a supportive recovery of the world in which we live. But what is really peace? Word often abused, violated, soaked with blood, loved and despised by the improper use of force, peace stands as a harbinger of harmony and civil coexistence among all men. It is as precious as the water that quenches our thirst, and like the bread that nourishes us, also a symbol of sharing resources. But to cultivate peace, and to ensure that it is lasting, it is necessary to struggle every day to preserve it. Let's then take a closer look at the main figures on this topic related to SDG goals. 1. 28.5 million primary school age who are out of school live in conflict-affected areas. Conflicts affect education, so a lot of children lack education, basic education. 2. Violence against children affects more than 1 billion children around the world. This is a big number. 3. Sexual abuse. 1 in 10 children is sexually abused before the age of 18. 4. Bullying. 1 in 3 bullied students. So this is the framework. Children out of the school, children who experience violence, children who are sexually abused, and children who are bullied. So let's have a look at the targets for these important goals. First, we need to reduce all forms of violence and the number of deaths related to the kind of violence. We need to end abuse, exploitation, traffic, and all forms of violence against children. Children are a treasure. Children need to grow in serenity, happiness, no violence, no children abuse. And this is a cultural thing. And all those people, adults, who do violence against children must go to prison for a long time. 3. Then we need to ensure equal access to justice for all. We need also to reduce illicit financial and arms flows and combat all forms of organized crime. We need to reduce corruption and bribery. Corruption must be reduced at all levels. We need transparency in the institutions at all levels. And this is very important, especially corruption. We need the participation of people in the democratic process, political inclusion. We need more representation of developing countries in the institution of a global governance. And the legal identity for all. Last but not least, we need to protect fundamental freedoms. Freedom is a very important value, and we had understood much more its importance this year in the period of March-April 2020, when the most countries were in lockdown. But it is important that was a temporary situation, and to understand that people need the freedom to develop, to grow, to be creative, and express her best qualities. So these are the things about peace. All these targets are related between themselves and with targets in other social, ecological, and development goals. For example, no children abuse. This has very important effects in terms of a long-term economy. In order to have a society that develops in a sustainable way, we need a mass of children who are able to think in a systemic and long-term way in the future. I have started from peace to reach a fundamental point of the discussed education, especially of women. But I will touch on only a few aspects of this topic, which I leave to other speakers. For my part, as an architect, I want to give a quick thought to smart cities, which in a post-pandemic era will be the driving force of the urban expansion and the migratory flows towards sustainable urbanized areas. We know all SDGs are interrelated. The discourse of education, in particular of women and children, is interconnected and fundamental for solving environmentally sustainable problems. In fact, only a quality education that takes into account the problems emerging at the beginning of the third millennium, extreme poverty, scarcity of water, gender inequality, intensive use of the soil, guaranteed health for the entire world population, climate change, smart cities, etc., will be able to make a large part of humanity change bad habits and benefit the environment. In an area so troubled by the pandemic and an unprecedented economic crisis, the problem of women in the world seems to worsen more and more. Educational offspring, female work, empowerment appear increasingly difficult to achieve. What tools can then be put in place to face this emergency? I finish here. It's a long speech, so I prefer to leave the ground for education to other speakers and so on. And so I will conclude later, maybe commenting. Okay? Is it okay?
It's more than okay. It's superb, Franca. That's why you are here. Yes. And also, it's part of what means SDGs, an holistical approach. You are an architecture and you are talking about peace. And this connection is not a coincidence, because now we have to make urban planning and use all the resources and all the actors in a multi-stakeholder scenario. So you are in the perfect place. And thank you so much for this kindness to address so difficult. You're an ambassador of peace, so we cannot expect less from you, Franca. It was lovely. Anja, Jitendra, I imagine that you have many comments regarding that. Anja?
Yeah, first of all, thank you, Franca. I love that you've been relating so much to education, and I think that is really the most important source. And I love as well that you talked about children and the abuse of children, and I think you cannot highlight this enough, because this is a future generation for shaping peace, and if they are not stable, they cannot do this. It will be very difficult for us in the future. Actually, we are running a campaign with kids, and it's called Action for Happy Kids. And in this campaign, kids asking kids in which place they want to live and what is a happy place for other kids. And one of the kids, and that is only what I want to say, and what reminded me immediately when you've been talking, said that is not a happy place for kids. It's the place of war and abuse. It's not a happy place for kids. And that was a young girl from Zimbabwe saying, and she is 6 years old.
Absolutely magnificent, Anja. Franca, you would like to say something in relation to that? I will say something after you.
Yes, it's very important what she said, Anja, Karen, because after the brilliant reports of the speaker, Anja knows very well. She is the founder at TAI International, so she knows education. She loves kids, loves humanity. She is a great mother of our humanity. So I conclude with a brief final thought, very brief final thought, taking into account what they have said, especially Anja and you, Mar Introini, in your introduction, to touch on a crucial point of the speeches made so far. The most pressing issues is, in fact, that of migration, which involves Italy and Europe very closely, and which must be tackled upstream. In summary, climate change will lead to greater impoverishment, especially in sub-Saharan areas with shortages of food and water. Organic farming at 0 kilometers represent, together with the diversification of crops and local production, a possible solution to cope with the rising temperatures. But smart cities are the key to eliminating the most massive emissions, moving towards sustainable public transport with zero emissions as possible, since a considerable share of the world population now lives concentrated in megalopolises. Together with smart working, cutting-edge technologies, faster internet, it will be possible to build a more human face of megalopolises with immersion in the green. But above all, to rebuild a more intensive relationship with the nature from which we have strayed too far in the race towards advanced industrialization. It will certainly be this rediscovered balance between us humans and the surrounding environment to re-establish that relationship of harmony with the nature that we have partly underestimated in the pursuit of uncontrolled progress.
Franca, the relationship, what is business, what is private sector, Jitendra, peace, business sector. What do you think about that?
About this, this is related to actually peace. So if there is no peace, it will be difficult for countries to actually develop. Economic development will come to a halt, and industrialization will also suffer. So peace is very important, and I am greatly inspired by the Nelson Mandela saying that so long as there is poverty, injustice and gross inequality in this world, no one can truly rest. So everything boils down to one thing, that is peace, peace, peace. Because we know that war anywhere is a threat to peace everywhere. Just like poverty anywhere is a threat to prosperity everywhere. We just can't live in a very prosperous society and see sufferings, people suffering outside. That, I think, will not last long. That is where the corporate social responsibility comes into play. So we have to have a balance, and the biggest factor which is, hindering growth, development is countries are more interested in war rather than peace. And like they say, war starts not in the battlefield, but in the minds of men. And it is in the minds of men that the bastions of peace must be erected.
Absolutely, absolutely. Thank you so much. And now we go directly to the other SDGs, that is sustainable cities, and Franca have done a wonderful introduction. So is when we have a peaceful society, then we could have sustainable cities. So we think that all the SDGs are connecting, is true, but the first one seems to be peace. It's something that is an absolutely basic, and we cannot achieve anything else. Yes. So I will tell you that many times ago, maybe some month ago, I have a lapsus, a mistake in a panel, and instead of referring to partnership with SDG 17, I refer to it as SDG 16, peace, justice, and strong institutions. And it seems a coincidence, but it's not. We need more peace than partnership. But to talk about sustainable cities, I cannot address it without talking about partnership. We have lost sense of what means alliance, especially because SDGs is a golden framework, but it's an agreement among nations, not among citizens. So the citizens are supposed to expect from the state. They expect from political leaders. They expect from the governments that are not able to deliver. Leaders tied it up to private interest or to a political processes. We don't have to forget that. It's very important to take into account that this is a political process. So I am a political analysis on talking about sustainable cities is because there is a political process that we have to take into account. And it pollute more maybe than their own polluted environment, more than the carbon dioxide, dioxide carbon. And when I say alliance, what I mean with alliance, the state have to be reformed and lost what think that it is power. And for me, that means to be a catalyzer and not top-down initiatives. And to be a catalyzer means to integrate what means citizens' initiatives, what means public sector, private sector, institutions, education, and then with an holistic approach, make all the initiatives one, a multi-stakeholder, multidimensional approach. If not, we are not going to achieve, or we are going to achieve what we are achieving now. What is what we are achieving? Clothes. Your clothing on your clothes. They're sustainable or not? Have you checked out before? Think of your furnitures. They are sustainable or they are not. Think about that. So it's related, the citizens are not influenced to the political process. They're influenced on their own decisions on consumption, reducing energy, recycling, cycling. But when we talk about big issues, infrastructures, waste management, water management, energy, we go to the government and we rely wrongly in the government. So it's time to change that. And it's time to change the approach. And I will tell you a case study that for me is really striking. It was a foreign firm, company, with a very innovative project to transform a city in China into green, into sustainable. They did it with all the guarantees, and also a very ambitious project that it looks very well. Now, what we have, and I will tell you just one detail. They make houses, they build houses with garage. Most of the villagers do not have a car. What means that? That they have not asked the citizens. The citizens were not involved. So there were top-down initiatives. Bottom down and top down have to be at the same level. And that's where we are going to find the balance. And for that, we need to become more than green. We need to greening, more than greening the environment, we need to greening our mindset. That I think is the key to get into sustainable cities. Just that, I will only give that minutes, and I let Anja, education. We have the Global Chair of Circular Economy. We are very proud to have you here, and thank you so much to be so generous and immediately you say yes. And even she doesn't know us. She doesn't know what she was getting into. So thank you for being here, Anja. Education, peace, sustainable cities, and now educating. Are the people educating for being aligned with the Sustainable Development Goals? They are educating to be influenced. The floor is yours, Anja.
Thank you very much. When you called me and you said, and especially with our colleagues here, of course I said yes. And I think we cannot have enough possibilities to spread messages like this, and that is as well bottom up, because we are not coming from ministries. We are coming really out of me. I'm coming out of the field work. You guys coming from out of the field work as well. So we really experience these things. When I founded THEA 3 years ago, I was actually asking myself, what do people in future need? What young people need? Because THEA International, it's all about life and career capacity building. And I asked myself, in which kind of careers do young people find their place? And that led me to the question, in which world do young people want to live? And what can we do to empower them and even to ask them first, And then we're coming to, that is actually nice, your example, if I'm referring to that. We really work with young people and we ask them what they need. And then we bridge them to, I say what I say normally, to sustainable and to things they cannot find easily and partners they would never could address because they have not the capacity to. We built up, actually in that, we built up the question as well from circular economy, and that is why I'm so related to circular economy. And circular economy not necessarily is sustainable. It should be, and most of the time it can be, but it is not always. So it led us to the question, why circular economy is one of the future fields, and sustainability practices and sustainable fields are one of the future fields where young people can find their place if they have the right education and the possibility of experiences. It is because it is the future. And the future is already now, because we are running and we are in an extremely shortage of, we're running out of resources. And the mindset of how to get along with resources, how to treat Earth and resources, if we feel superior and we use them, or if we really can work with it, if we feel like guests on our planet, that is a question of education as well. And all these issues I never found actually, only maybe in one or in a few schools, not really in all these fields of university, and especially not in the connectivity, because as you said before, as you both said before, all the topics of sustainability and especially of circular economies, they are interrelated, and there is a deep connectivity to all these different fields. They've been touched. So in our linear systems of education, most of the industries, healthcare, ministries, definitely, so governments, linear, they are not working like this. They don't even know what anybody is doing. So all these leading us to a transition, and we need this transition, but we are not ready for that. So the systems are not there. So everything is in a big transition. So the question is how education and value education like 4.7 and global education can lead to this. And that is coming up to sustainable practices. And I got out in the field 2 years ago, 2 years actually before the pandemic. And I was looking for these lighthouse experiences and these lighthouse partners, people who really lived and been authentically living what they do. And that found, actually there I found quite a lot of examples in India. I found examples in Brazil. It is all about organic agriculture. It's about organic architecture as well. It's about herbal biodiversity, recultivating fields and working again with plants, knowledge about plants. It is all about social emotional competences and capacity building. And I found quite a few interesting partners in India, as well in Brazil, in Egypt. And we put that together in a kind of roadmap for young people to make their experiences. Because if young people have not the chance to make experiences and to have a try-out field, how do they will gain all this knowledge? And if they not experience something, how do they want to protect the planet? How do they want to know that this is existing? So we give them as well orientation for new fields. And hopefully they go together in diversity groups. We come later to gender, it will be a very important topic. They have different experiences. They have a combination of different parts and different interdisciplinary competencies, as well technology, new technologies, electronics, coming back to social works, and that is then coming back to the education. And hopefully we can be part of that and drive this. And then I'm very optimistic that we will have the young leaders for a world, you know, what we want to live in and what they want to live in. And this is actually what I try to fuel with Thea.
That's magnificent. And you know, when you talk about education, you talk about education on kids. And I love also to say what you are saying also apply for adults, education for adults. You know, we need to educate ourselves to a new way of living. You know? And that is, I think, is worse challenge than to educate kids. You know, Jitendra, Franca, do you want to say anything regarding that?
I am an lifelong learning system. My present master was in a lifelong learning system. So I am an adult who studies all life. I continue, I go on. But I would like to add an important point I forgot, if you allow me to do. It's about our heritage. We need to define the words cultural and natural heritage. This is very important because we will become richer if we defend nature, culture, and heritage. The biggest richness comes from these assets in a long period. So when we develop a urban context, we should not put aside culture, nature, and heritage. This is a long-term asset.
Absolutely.
I have forgotten before.
Yeah. Thank you, Franca. Anja.
It's perfect. It's perfect. It's really a perfect match because actually all the awareness and the miracles in the projects I found in traditional projects. So when I went back, I found in India completely sustainable villages. So we have not to talk about waste because they're not producing any waste. We found most of the interesting concepts as well we're not only talking about high quality education in universities and schools, it's as well people who are not educated living in these villages, but they are connected to the context. They understand the context perfectly and they develop their tools and their measures out of this in the process in really close to the context and to the ancient traditional knowledge, what is transferred to them. And this is going to get lost. And this is actually a big problem. And therefore, looking back to tradition, going back, that was my first step. I went back to come forward.
Great. Anja. Jitendra.
Yeah, like Mar pointed out that none of the SDGs actually can work without the support of the government. So it is the government who has to bring it to the ground level, whether it is the education or healthcare or whatever. So in today's situation, I feel all countries, especially the developing nations, must ensure equitable and quality education for all and promote lifelong learning opportunities like Franca was telling. So it is a big responsibility on the government to ensure universal primary, secondary education, then affordable vocational training, accessibility to higher education, these things. So government has a very important role to play actually.
So educating
to bring these to the citizens.
Yeah. Educating kids, re-educating adults, high-speed technology, something that I always like to highlight. High-speed technology, but we have a high-speed connections, a high-speed on learning. Do we have that? We deliver tools because we have the tools. Technological, we have the tools. We use it to educate people. We do that, Anja, or there's a long way to work on it?
I see in the moment, I see quite a lot of platforms coming up, and a lot of startup money is going into these easy consuming content, I would like to say. And what I experience is the real shift of a mindset, and even as well from school kids, it doesn't matter. It's not coming of consuming something. It's coming of really going beyond, of really trying out, of being inspired by somebody, of really have a pathfinder built. So I think technology, yes, it is nice, it's important, it can reach out, but it won't substitute somebody who is really working with young people and really of young people having these experiences. It won't work without. That is what I'm deeply thinking. And I think we have to think in the wide range of bringing education to most of the kids, of really nearly everybody. But as well, we have to focus and to know of higher education of people who can really bring the change. So there are different approaches. And that has to be accessible, because you find the talents, not only with rich people, you find the talents everywhere, and they should have access to these high quality programs.
Yes,
technology is a driver, but for me, not more.
Yes, but I have something to say, because along with the modern teaching tools or learning aids, it must be affordable also, because for developing nations, not everyone can afford a computer and mobile to learn, because these days all schools and colleges are running their class on mobile and this desktop. But I think many of the school children will not be having access to these facilities, the internet. So the developing countries, there is still a problem. The already developed ones may not be having, but for developing countries like India, Bangladesh, Pakistan, Nepal, they will still have the not only accessibility but also affordability, because there is a poverty also, which cannot be ruled out.
You are very right. Last time we had a workshop, we could not add, we working with global groups, and we could not add kids from Zimbabwe because they could not afford the internet. So even if we said, okay, come to one place, they could not afford it. And last time we had somebody from Nigeria, and this one, it was a very interesting thing, because he took the computer and he developed a learning system on the basis of computer that kids don't need an access to internet.
Yeah.
The kids been listening, coming from better environments and really financially a little bit better. They not even had the idea that the computer is working like this. So
Yes.
it is very important to look and to see what other people do in other, even if you say developing countries, because they have maybe solutions for things you need and you can spread. We have areas where people have not even books. So the question is, do we go for books, or maybe they learn things differently and we can spread it differently? And maybe later on they have a bigger experience with different things because they have a better access to creativity. We don't know that. So we just think like this. Now we just think like we have to transmit this. I think on the longer run, we have to see what are really the skills who have to be admitted and how we can do this. And that depends on the context, on the environmental context, on the financial context, on the social context. So there won't be a solution for everybody in the same way.
I'm so grateful that you both bring this issue of accessibility to technology, because we get to the next level of what means poverty, because not access to technology means poverty, and SDGs say leave no one behind. But if someone has no access to technology, is really behind.
He's left behind, yes.
Yeah, even if you have not the knowledge, I think for people who get older, you know, me, I started with no computer. I'm not the generation starting with a computer. So I had it when I started studying, but not in school. And you know, it's going so fast. It's going so fast. If you later on, maybe you're not really updated with all these things, you cannot go out, cannot take a bus because you're not even able to have this app, or you don't know how to get it. So you won't go anymore. You will stay at home. So, I think that will be a big question, and there is the young ones are already quite aware of this. So I've been talking to kids, and they said, okay, we want to have programs for our parents that they catch up with us in that point, and they are quite aware, and they are sharing as well their knowledge and their capacities. And we have to catch up. We cannot. There's lifelong time learning, like Franca said, and Shitandra. It's important. We cannot go without.
A true challenge. We go through peaceful societies to generate sustainable cities, and especially places for kids, as Franca highlighted, safe place for kids. We go to education for adults, education for kids, and now we are going to you. You say that you were happy that ladies first. That's why you are the last one speaker. It was you, please. I wanted to make it clear.
Yes.
And so, please, the floor is yours. Gender equality, your wonderful experience on business as a consultant. So, how we juggle with all this challenge, Jitendra.
Okay. So first of all, my namaste to Mar, Franca, Anja, and viewers. And I thank you, Mar, for providing me with this opportunity to be a part of this distinguished panel. It is indeed a privilege and honor to be here today. My topic is corporate sustainability and gender equity, something to do with SDG 5 only. So I would like to share some important statistics. So according to the World Economic Forum 3G report, that is Global Gender Gap Report 2020, it will take another 100 years to achieve gender equality based on the current rate of progress. This prediction has been widely used as a shock therapy to push governments, NGOs, associations, investors, and companies into action. A report in New York Times on 26 September 2020 observed that in the face of COVID-19 pandemic and economic crisis, efforts will have to be doubled if we are to avoid losing another 10 years to achieve gender equality. Based on past experience, economic slowdowns not only disproportionately affect women, but also trigger gender equality topics to slip down governmental and corporate agendas. As per Harvard Business Review, September 2020 issue, women represent 39% of global workforce, but accounted for 54% job losses as of May 2020. Furthermore, women are overrepresented in sectors which are most heavily hit by the pandemic, such as hospitality or the food services industries, further exacerbating inequalities. These inequalities also disproportionately affect certain groups of women, depending on the intersections of gender with race, ethnicity, religion, class, ability, and other identity markers. A landmark McKinsey Global Institute report reveals 8 critical observations. This is quite disheartening, but I will tell you the first one. Women make up half of the world's population, but currently contribute only 37% to global GDP. Number two is $12 trillion could be added to global GDP by 2025 if the gender gap is narrowed. That is the size of current GDP of Japan, Germany, and UK combined. Number three, the path to gender parity will not be easy as 195 million fewer women than men are illiterate. Number four, 190 million fewer women than men have no access to an account at formal financial institution. Number five, women spend 3 times more hours on unpaid care work than men do. Number six, 90% of CEOs in S&P, that is Standard & Poor's 500 companies, are promoted or hired from the line roles. Yet only 20% of women in senior VP positions hold line roles. Number seven, it will take more than 100 years to reach gender equality in the C-suite based on current trends. C-suite, it is referred to the board level positions like the chief executive officer, chief information officer, chief financial officer. And number eight, less than 50% of employees believe that their company is doing what it takes to improve gender diversity. I only hope this does not become a reality. In fact, no country in the world has achieved complete gender equality. In over 190 countries, half of the population face some form of discrimination because they are female. Sadly, in developing countries, gender inequality holds millions of girls and women back from reaching their full potential, preventing many from gaining an education, voicing their opinions, accessing healthcare, and deciding their own futures. As we all know, in 2015, at the United Nations General Assembly, 193 world leaders agreed to adopt the Sustainable Development Goals, which we are here to discuss today, a set of 17 global goals that aim to solve some of the most pressing issues of our time by 2030, including gender equality. So as the world looks towards the next stage of international development, here is a quote by Jimmy Carter, former President of the United States of America and Nobel Peace Prize laureate, on the importance of engaging boys and men in the fight for gender equality. It is not that women alone will fight, men and boys also have to be a part. According to Carter, it is time that men and boys recognize the part they must play in gender equality and join with the voices and actions of the women and girls who are trying to reshape society in the interests of us all, not women, interests of us all. That is what Carter says, and it is very meaningful. This, of course, should remind us or everyone of the pressing need to stand up for girls' rights and gender equality. When I talk of corporate sustainability and gender equity, I am actually referring to empowering women at the grassroots. This means opportunities for women in developing world markets. So it's time for companies to take the next step, a step that will involve incorporating gender equity into the mainstream of corporate life. As a matter of fact, corporate leaders would do well to consider the fact that empowering women can promote long-term organizational growth. Unfortunately, companies rarely treat women's empowerment as a vital part of their corporate sustainability initiatives. I feel it's time for companies to recognize the importance and significance of gender equality and come up with programs or initiatives which could help various departments in the company to work together in an integrated way on gender initiatives. In a single company, we can think of, say, 4 major departments: the Human Resource Department, the CSR, Corporate Social Responsibility, then Board of Directors, or the Supply Chain Management. So these 4 departments can have independent responsibilities for one task. For example, the Human Resource Department may take responsibility for employee diversity issues. The CSR, or the Corporate Social Responsibility team, may promote gender equality as a human rights issue. The Board of Directors may focus on C-suite and board diversity, and the supply chain managers may work to ensure gender diversity among suppliers. The sad part is, rarely do these groups work together in an integrated way on gender initiatives. The good news, however, is today we have systems to certify companies and products on the basis of gender equity. For example, the EDGE scheme, launched at the World Economic Forum in Davos in 2011, certifies companies on the basis of internal policies and practices that promote gender equality. In 2014, L'Oreal became the first US company to receive EDGE certification, EDGE. It is a certification issued by the Global Business Certification Standard for Gender Equality. And I think gradually all companies should be made to obtain this certificate. Now, as more CEOs reflect on how gender equality can benefit their business, we will see more corporations develop programs that empower women across their value chain. By applying a gender lens to all of their operations, companies will not only help to transform the lives of women and girls around the world, but also promote sustainable development for all. I have come across an excellent example of gender culture to emulate. As the world's biggest e-commerce company, Alibaba Group serves hundreds of millions of users and hosts millions of merchants. Transactions on its online sites totaled $248 billion in 2017, more than those of eBay and Amazon.com combined. So what is the secret to success of Alibaba? The answer is women. Taking the goal of gender equality to a deep level, Chairman Jack Ma describes women as the secret sauce behind Alibaba's dominance in the online shopping industry. More than 1/3 of Alibaba Group's founders were women, and a similar percentage are in senior executive roles. Ma went so far as to claim that women's perseverance and attention to details will outperform men in the age of robotics and machine learning. When it comes to creating programs that maximize the revenue potential inherent to gender diversity, Alibaba is an excellent example to follow. Like I said, for Alibaba Group Chairman Jack Ma, women are the secret sauce behind the company's success, and therefore it is a sort of warning for men that they might lose jobs to women and artificial intelligence in 30 to 50 years from now. I think I will sign off with a poem written by Susan Anthony, who was an American social reformer and women's rights activist who played a pivotal role in the women's suffrage movement, that is the right of women to vote in elections. I don't know who has written, but I just found it and it is quite interesting. I'll read it out. It is in tribute to Susan Anthony. On the long, hard road, in the fight to be free, no woman worked harder than Susan Anthony. She lived in a time when most men said, there is nothing important inside a woman's head. So women set out to prove that this was wrong. There was a lot of work to do. The journey was quite long. Even lots of women did not want equality. They wanted things to stay the same way for eternity. But Susan Anthony and many others with her worked without rest, spring, summer, fall, and winter. Talking to women, explaining what was fair, teaching them to stand up, urging them to care. Full equality is not here just yet, but the work that Susan did, we never will forget. And I will just add 2 lines from Bruce Springsteen's famous album. I don't remember which album. Get up, stand up for your right. Get up, stand up, don't give up the fight. Thank you. Namaste.
Namaste. Thank you so much, Jitendra. And I love the way you end your you will tell me on before I will put the music, because it's really fantastic. And I will highlight 2 aspects, and then I pass the word to Anja and Franca. No, that is, first, that you use the word gender diversity and not just equality. Sometimes we think that everything is about quotas, it's about numbers, and sometimes it's also about diversity, that the 2 approaches came together, you know. And then I love this practical aspect, because this is sustainable practices. When you say, well, I have a company, which are the departments that have to be involved and to be engaged with this? And you say human resources, supply chain, CSR, and board of managers. I think that is something absolutely important to analyze, to study, and there is not enough analysis to go through that. So thank you for bringing that. Anja, go ahead.
Oops. Hi. Yeah, thank you for this wide approach and all these facts and figures. That I think that that's been nice to reflect again, because still sometimes I think a lot of things are done. And we already reached out, and we did, and especially in Germany the last few months, it's again a big debate of women in university career situations. And genders was coming up as well because of writing writing in a gender adequate style. So it was again a big topic. I experience very often the same challenges women face today. Young women, they're not be changed since 30 years. And I think that is actually not, if you're talking about women and if you talk about women in leadership positions, that they not come higher, that they stop here. All these problems they talk about, they are not changed. And I think it's as well with all the support of men and of communication and diversity, understanding what women can do for a company, it has to come up from the woman as well. And to show her capacity and to change. You know, as you said, some really want to have the. We say in Germany, you cannot have a shower without being wet. And some women, I think, very often, even in leadership functions, they stay like a princess. They're not becoming a queen. Why don't they not become a queen? Because it's a kind of serving. And I think that is as well with the mindset, and then we're coming back to education. It's coming there, being aware of the skills you can contribute, but with your real identity. That doesn't mean you be a better man in that role, That means you have your proper identity and you know what you can contribute. And that is actually a part women have to develop again and more. And then I think the diversity part and what they can really contribute in a company, especially in circular economy fields, I found not many, but when I found really women not in consultant functions, in leadership functions, then for example Mitsubishi, there's women, Telecom, IKEA, they have as directors in circular economy women, and they are all connected with Mint topics. So it's you see, it's possible. It's really there, and maybe it's as well find a nice entry and then go through and try out. But there I'm talking only from leadership.
Absolutely. There is a problem of leadership. Definitely it is, Anja. I agree with you because there is the people are not taking the role that they should. And they start with citizens and influencers. So it's a part of that. It's part of the problem. If the women are not inside the business sector because the business sector reject them, they don't have the correct policies, maybe, but also what they've done to be there. Or is that the business sector is not enough attractive for the life of a woman, especially the one who had in charge families or sons or daughters? No.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
where relies the problem, no?
Yeah, it's still in Germany. It was still a problem since a couple of years ago. You have not the situation like in France, for example, that you can that you have a crash for the kids. So women are definitely in a multi challenging situation. But as well, when I was in India and I worked with the women in slums, the first mind shift point was actually that they understood they have a right first for a dream and second for a career. So we use career. We don't say job. We say career. And that is wow, why I can have a career, not only a job. And that is, I think, the same in the leadership. You are not only doing a job, you are leading something, you are designing something. And for the framework, I think that is the job of a company. Doing the framework that women can have not to do 3 or 5 jobs in one point, including family and being a better chef and everything. I think this is a structural point, an organizational point that is manageable for a company.
Being part in the decision-making process is one of the big challenge. It's not just to be part of the business sector, but also in which part of the business sector they are. And in general, they are not in the decision-making process because there is no room for conciliation of family and work. Most of the time, that's the reason, the simple reason. Franca, would you like to add anything or something that you put there?
Some very brief about education and women. Just talking about the condition in Europe, I can assert that the Northern European countries are at the forefront of equal opportunities. In fact, female work, also related to occupational brackets, normally male prerogative, company boards of directors, universities, government, and etc., as well as equal pay for men and women, in often European countries are the flagship. I know this comparing my country, because Italy, my country, on the other hand, is like the rear of this European system, aimed at distributing increasingly emerging roles of women. Why? Too much bureaucracy and cumbersome laws. This is my country. In France, on the other hand, has managed to overcome the gap in female employment, and today it can boast about 46% of female employment, even in the usually male prerogative, while in Italy it stands at a miserable 13%. In conclusion, if we want to give an answer to the economic problems induced by the pandemic, we should privilege a schooling presence is essential and indispensable tool, not only for education, but also for pedagogical and mental health. Second, gender equality, without which you can't go anywhere. This is my conclusion. Without gender equality, not possible to do. Peace is at the top. Huh? I think like a pyramid. A top peace. Without peace, you can do anything. You can go to school. You can, if you live in the area of war and so. But it's important also gender, as Jitendra said very well about gender equality and so, because we cannot go ahead this way. No good, absolutely. We have to change also curricula in the schools, but without corruption. It's important, no corruption in a country. We imagine migration problems. If we send money, from Europe to some countries where there is corruption, they don't spend the money for people, for education, for women, to change the system. They take money, they put money in their pockets. I say politicians, no? Where is corruption? There is no progress, no possible. We need good leaders, and maybe a day, maybe not very far away, women will be good leaders together with men. I say always in equal opportunity, not up, not down. In the middle, in medio stat virtus. I finish with the Latin motto I like too much to speak in Latin. So I finish.
Yes, we are coming to an end, unfortunately, but I will give you all of you 1 minute, 2 minutes, just to wrap up, please, and well, let's see what are your conclusions.
Me?
Yes, Anja, go ahead.
Okay, sorry. I did not. Yeah, I think we could have really long discussions on each topic, and I would be really curious to know more about the gender equality of Chitana's experiences in Indian companies, for example, and more about sustainable cities and your experiences, Ma and Franca, more about peace and what you are doing, and really going more behind. So, but I'm really, really happy of this exchange and the time we took, and yeah, I think it was a start. So for me, it was like a warm up with a good overview. And you've been excellent and wonderful discussion partners. Thank you all very much. I'm very grateful for that pleasure, time, and insightful exchange.
Thank you, Anja. Franca?
Thank you to all. Before all, Mara, thank you, Mara Introvini, for your kindness. Thank you to all the relators, because you were wonderful. I have learned a lot from you, and this was a very meaningful meeting for me, because we have a circular and systematic platform, not only a linear one, as so are the SDG goals. So we are in a circular system, very, very interesting. But the problem number one is how to teach people how to teach to change consumeristic habits. This is the crux of all the problems, because also women, I say, a lot of women are very consumerist. And men do, and men, we say always men, the fault is on, no, but also women, we have to be, to tell the truth, we cannot hidden ourselves. So we have to change our habits.
Mhm.
This is very, very important, how to teach to people at school, and also families, because some families are very illiterate, not educated, and so on. So thank you, and it was very important. I am very happy to have to participate for this meeting. Thank you,
Thank you.
Anka. Thank you, Janendra and Mar.
Thank you, Franca. Jitendra.
Yes, I think for any SDG goal achievement, like I said, the government has to play a very important role. And for education, there is actually the women and girls need to be encouraged more, because girls in villages, they are still lagging behind so far as education is concerned. And there is a saying in India that you educate a man to fish and he will eat it. Educate a woman to fish and she will feed the family.
Yeah.
The difference it makes in educating a man and a woman. And I am very hopeful that more and more companies will follow Jack Ma's Alibaba and bring the women workforce to at least 50%, like they have, maybe on their own or through some government legislations, by reservation of posts in various companies that way. But I think it is the need of the hour to have a balance, because the number of women in industry is still very less. So let us hope that things will change, things will improve for the better of entire mankind, rather, because I said woman and man has to go together, like Jimmy Carter said. In fact, the word woman includes the word man, so you cannot exclude man. The woman word itself includes man. So you have to go together as partners in progress, and then everything will fall in place.
Thank you so much, Jitendra. And this is a wrap. All ladies lead global networking, and this is the way we approach SDGs, a multidimensional way. Different SDGs, all connected, all the speakers from different countries, different professions, different approach, but we all came together. That is what we expect, that the SDGs will take a global and joint action, resilient, with all together and leaving no one behind. Thank you for being here, and till next month.
Thank you.
Namaste.
Namaste.
Thank you.
Ciao, ciao.
Ciao, ciao.